You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast.
The Podcast of Terror is a show with adult themes, run by adults, for adults. Please do not have your children listen to this show. It might be beneficial to them in the long run, but please wait until they are older. This is one of those things. It's like when you laugh when you're playing bingo and 069 comes up and you have a chuckle and your kitty says, Mommy, why are you laughing at 069? And the mommy says, when you're older. It's one of those kinds of things. Mommy, can I listen to Podcast of Terror? Sure. When you're older. This is a show with adult themes and some childish behavior. A lot of dick jokes. So please. If you want to avoid the swearing, if you want to avoid spoilers for your favorite horror movies, and if you want to avoid really, really lame, petty dick jokes, do not listen to this show. It is not for you.
Corey, how often do you wear a shirt?
Not as often as you would think.
Yeah, it's always nice to cover up your nipples, and maybe your neighbors are complaining because they're hairy. I know you wear shirts when we do these shows. That's about it, from what I understand.
It's more that I just give off a glare that blinds drivers by.
It is hot in California, so I assume that you sweat. There's a slight sheen to you, and the California sun just...
I don't even sheen. I Estevez.
That is... If you do not want to Estevez in public... We have two places in which you can go. We got 2 coupon codes to make your life a little cheaper. You can go visit frequent guest and friend of the show, Matt Vincent, his website, thehate.com. That's the HVIII.com. Use the coupon code HBG15 for 50% off your order. Maybe you hate him. I don't know. He's kind of a likable guy. But if you hate him and you want to go spend your money somewhere else, we got this other place. Go to statusfearmerch.com. Another sponsor of the show, friend of the show. He does all our artwork. He's a really nice guy. He does all the art for my band, except for the stuff that Corey's wife draws. Head over to statusfearmerch.com. Use the coupon code TERROR. Get you a little nice discount there. Burn and fire, burn the fire. Burn and fire, burn the fire. Welcome to episode 116 of the Podcast Terror, production of the Galactic Network. I'm your host, Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey. I don't know, Corey Scott.
No one knows Corey Scott.
I got nothing. I'm gonna try and get into this really quick instead of fucking around. This week we have. He's actually a really nice guy. Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey. Shocker. I don't know.
Everybody up to this point, complete assholes.
This guy's really nice. We finally found a good one. Rich Ragsdale, he's the director of the movie we're going to be talking about a little later called Ghost House. If you were here last week, we had Russell on. Russell's in Ghost House. See how this works out? Now we have Rich. And I was talking to him earlier. I looked at his IMDb page. I got a little intimidated. So I'm like, you talk about it. Rich, talk about you.
Talk about me?
Yeah, talk about you.
I don't know what there is to say. I'm just a Southern boy who moved out to California to make horror movies. So,
and so it appears you've done 8-Legged Freaks, which is a movie I'd heard about.
Yeah,
a lot.
I did I wrote a bunch of metal music for that movie.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh no,
not just for that movie. You've worked on a ton of stuff, like the rerun show, which I was a big fan of. Good Morning Miami.
Yes.
Like there's so many things that as I go down the list of stuff that you've done, you worked on Will and Grace. A lot of the stuff, yes, music, King of Queens, like things that people would go, holy crap, that's a huge body of work of well-known stuff to be associated with. And then you parlay it into directing and writing, which is awesome.
Shucks, man, I appreciate it.
Well,
yeah. I mean, I went to music school. I came out to California to be a composer. So, I ended up working on a bunch of like sitcoms and doing video games and the occasional movie and stuff. And the thing about working in television, especially when I first started, was that you would get your summers off. So, that you would have the summer hiatus, so my brother and I started kind of screwing around and making experimental films just kind of for fun. And one of them went on and won a bunch of awards. And, it was like a little creepy little thing. And I was like, it's actually a lot more fun than composing for sitcoms. So we started, he and I started a production company. And ever since we've like I said, we've been doing a bunch of music videos, and we produced a bunch of features, and like now I directed Ghost House, and it's been a weird career, but it's been fun. So
Yeah, right before you showed up, Corey, he was like, "Yeah, I've been doing a couple music videos. Have you ever heard of the band Chevelle?" Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking through the list of the music videos and stuff. I'm like, Matt's gonna know all of these bands.
yeah, we I have a very dark aesthetic, so a lot of times we get like heavy metal bands want us to do their videos. So I mean, it's cool. I grew up listening to a lot of metal, so it was, it's always fun.
I know a couple people who listen to this who may or may not be bands on Prosthetic Records. So if you need a music video, I know a guy.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I
I lost.
A couple buddies their bands are on Prosthetic Records. So I'm like, if you need a
nice.
music video, I know a guy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we do a lot of them. I mean, musicians are my people, so it's fun to do them. We speak the same language. So
You're much nicer
think it's
than
funny-
most musicians I've met, though.
oh, yeah. Really? I feel like most of the musicians I know are pretty cool.
I'm just kidding. They're all sweethearts.
Most of the musicians Matt knows are in his band.
It's kind of how it
It's funny,
works,
you
man.
came out to California to become a composer.
I'm sorry.
You came out to California to become a composer. I was a music major in Michigan, and I left Michigan to come to California to skip finals. So it didn't work out as well for me.
Hey, man, whatever works.
Yeah. You were going to ask a question, and then Corey kept cutting you off.
I was going to ask what kind of music your band does.
It's heavier music.
Nice.
Akin to old The Chariot and Norma Jean.
Oh, nice.
If you're familiar. Most people are like, I've never heard of those bands. I'm like, then you won't like it.
Well, I know Norma Jean. I don't know The Chariot.
So the first Norma Jean album, the singer left to start The Chariot.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it's a lot of the same music, a little more chaotic.
Nice. Hey, nothing wrong with a little chaos.
Yeah, you have to. I can shamelessly send you that stuff too.
Please.
That's what we're all here for, right? Just to plug
That's
our side
what
projects.
Or yeah.
I have no side project.
I'll be
My
your
music
side
is
project.
akin to Stryper and Debbie Gibson.
Striper. Oh man.
Nothing wrong with that.
Sorry, Deborah Gibson.
Deborah gets.
Oh, Debbie Pinson. That's a Simpsons reference. Let's see here. Corey, I see you're drinking Lipton iced tea. We forgot to do what you drinking last week, so we have to do it this week. Lipton iced tea.
We didn't forget. You forget that we did it, but
Did
you
we
definitely
really do it?
talked about. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, you definitely.
boy. It's becoming a problem. Well, okay, we didn't forget it last week. I forgot we did it last week. So Corey, what are you drinking this week?
I'm still drinking Lipton iced tea. I'm a very simple man. My needs are small.
Shocker. Rich, I know you mentioned you're not a big drinker, but what you drinking?
I just finished a glass of water. So
You're in California, though, right?
Yeah, I'm in California.
Isn't there like bans on drinking tap water there? Or water in general?
No, California. We sell our raw water now.
Yeah. Well, we were in the throes of a serious drought, but I think that we're coming out the other side now.
You're good. All right.
We let the yellow mellow as long as we could.
Sweet Jesus. Well, I'm glad you guys have water to drink, and you're not going to die. That's a good thing.
And so
We'll see if
what
it
are you
ever rains
drinking,
again.
What was that?
And what are you drinking, Matt?
Oh, I have, it's pink. This one's pink. It's New Glarus Cranbic. It's a cranberry lambic. And then when that's gone, because we all know how much I like to drink, I got a vanilla wafer porter.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I can be fat and drunk. Yeah, it's from a brewery called Mobcraft in Madison, Wisconsin. All right, Rich, we have to talk about literally everything you do, because that's why you're here.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I kind of want to focus on Ghost House, though, obviously, since that's what we all
Please.
watch.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
It is so okay. So I have to stay, and we're going to start at the end of the movie. I really appreciate the fact that you sent over the featurette to us about how you made the ghost world.
Yeah.
Because just watching it, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, just some shit. But to, like, see a 10-minute explanation of how you made, like, how you came up with the idea, and then how you made the animatronic, and you started it on fire, and, like, the shit that you shot in your quote-unquote magical garage, which might also be a sex dungeon, I'm not sure. I'm not here to judge. That really made it a little more real, I guess. Like, it just seems so much cooler. So I want to tip my hat to you on that one.
Well, thanks. I mean, the thing is, Ghost Houses, we endeavored to make a very like big feeling, big looking movie, but it's a very low budget movie. And, so that's why I like sharing stuff like that, because, we had to kind of scrimp and come up with a lot of kind of cool ideas to sort of make the movie feel bigger and hopefully more exciting, more interesting. So, we worked really hard on it. And so, like you say, I mean, I don't know. I think it, I'd like to show people, because I think they find it interesting, and it shows sort of what goes into making like a low budget movie. And, we love practical effects. And so we wanted to kind of honor that sort of tradition in horror films too. So
yeah, and for being what you say low budget, it doesn't feel low budget at all.
No, I was going to say the last week and this week, last week we did Who's Watching Oliver. Both of them, I believe, take place in Thailand, correct?
Yeah,
and we're filmed there, and just are strikingly beautiful, just to look at. I don't know what's going on over there, if there's something in the film development, but everything just looks really amazing. So when you say low budget film, when you say independent film, it just doesn't feel like that in comparison to what you imagine an independent film to be like here in the States. It looks like it's at another level.
Well, I mean, that was part of there was a conscious decision to shoot in Thailand. We actually came up with the ideas for the film, my brother and I, when we had gone over to Thailand. It's actually, some of it's sort of based on some things that happened to us while we were in Thailand. So that's where the kernel of the idea of like the ghost house graveyard and all that stuff came from. But, it's a beautiful country, and it's big, and there's lots of really interesting texture, and you can kind of point the camera anywhere and it looks cool. And then, like I said, we do a lot of music videos. So I think we have a team of guys that we work with all the time, and we've sort of developed a shorthand language for how to, maximize our production value. So, we worked hard on it, to make it not feel like, a low budget. Because like in America, if you have a small budget, the conventional wisdom is you go out into the woods, you find a cabin, you shoot everything in one location, and you save money by not moving around. And we did the opposite. We got to Thailand. We changed locations almost every day. It's a lot cheaper to shoot in Thailand, so that helps.
Yeah, we have a friend, PJ Starks, who did the Volumes of Blood films, and the first one all takes place in this local library. And what they did is they did these individual stories that were all like people who hadn't worked in film before got to work on it with it and kind of develop the stories that went into it. But it's interesting to see how using the same location for 4 different stories and then a surrounding thing around it, how they were able to utilize that. But that, to me, is small budget independent film. What you guys accomplished is very, very different from that.
I mean, I appreciate it. Like I said, we endeavored to make as big a feeling. I mean, the problem is like we still have all the problems that low budget films have. Like, there's no money to do reshoots, and, you have a very tight schedule, and you have to shoot a lot of stuff very quickly. And, so you're kind of, when your production value makes your movie look that big, you're judged on this kind of like big Hollywood movie sort of metric by this, even though you're really creating a movie with the same resources of the movies you're talking about. So, and I feel like generally like horror fans kind of give low budget movies. They judge them on a different, there's a different sort of criteria. And so we're kind of in this weird middle area where, we have some of the same problems that low budget films have when we're making it. We had some of the same problems, but we ended up with this thing that looks a little bigger than you would expect. I don't know. Does that make sense? What I just said?
No, absolutely.
I assume.
How do you entice some of the people to be in the movie? I mean, Scout Taylor Compton, Mark Boone Jr. They're people who have pretty big experience already under their belts. So, how do you get them involved in something like this?
Well, we met with Scout like very early in the process. We have a casting director who's a friend of ours, and she was helping us cast the film. And Scout was, I think, the first person on our wish list, and she knew Scout. We went and met our casting director in a cafe, and she's like, "Oh, Scout, I know her," and just called her on the phone, and we set up a meeting with Scout, and we just got along great. And Scout had been to Thailand before. She loves Thailand, so she was really into it. I mean, Scout is awesome. I mean, she's such a talented actress. We were really lucky that she agreed to do the movie. And Boone, we've known for a long time. I mean, he's in kind of our circle of friends, just somebody we know through friends and have worked with in the past. And so, it wasn't that hard to convince Boone to come out. And then James, who played the lead, we cast him at the very last minute. We'd actually had someone else cast in the lead, and it didn't work out. And we needed to replace the other actor with somebody. And we called a bunch of our friends. I was already in Thailand scouting locations, and a number of people recommended James. And he'd just done a film called Get the Girl with Scout, and Scout liked him. So it was like, cool, let's hire this guy. And James is doing really well. He was just on Stranger Things. He's in Westworld. He was on the Taken show. Yeah, so he's on, his star is definitely on the rise.
Yeah,
we just got lucky with our talent. There's like cool people willing to do the project.
Just realized there was a Taken TV show.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think they're going to do a season 2. So yeah.
Yeah, it comes Friday, March 2nd.
Yeah.
Huh.
So,
well, on the subject of Boone, then, and the fact that you've got a good relationship with him, I really want to see a continuation of the story of Reno.
Nice.
Like I feel like there's more to that character that's like a John Constantine type of guy who's sort of the Mr. Fix-It for supernatural stuff, maybe in that area or whatever. But he just seemed very interesting, and there's something really rich that you can mine with him that I don't think got overplayed in this story.
Yeah, and when you spend some time in Thailand, there are these like sort of middle-aged or slightly older like white guys that move there from either from Europe or America. They're just these pets, hang out in brothels and get drunk and live a debaucherous life on the cheap. And so that's kind of what inspired the character of Reno, is that he would be like one of those guys, but he's in the underworld, so he knows all about all this dark mystical stuff. It's interesting. Yeah, we've talked about sort of trying to continue the idea of Ghost House in Thailand and like keep maybe like Boone and Gogo's character alive. Well,
I mean, at the end of it, there's clearly, it's kind of left open for another one. So is there always an idea for a second one, or is that just kind of something you do where you just leave it open-ended in case?
Well, we have a couple of different ideas, and we've had a couple of different ideas in our back pocket, and we're just sort of hoping that the movie does well enough that it justifies continuing the story.
Mm-hmm. How's reception been on it? I'm not gonna lie, I heard about this movie last weekend. So
okay. Well, it depends on who you ask, of course, but like in Southeast Asia, we did incredibly well. I mean, we opened theatrically in Thailand, and we were like the number 2 movie in the country when it opened.
Nice.
We opened like number 1, I think, in Vietnam, and number 3 in Malaysia, and we showed theatrically in Turkey and some other countries too, all throughout that region of the world. Actually, right now we're in theaters in Egypt, and we've been in the first 2 weeks. We were in the top 10 movies there. So it's a small market, but still, we beat Steven Spielberg's The Post. So
that's fucking awesome.
The only time I'll ever do that, but
hey, take it when you can, man.
Yeah, internationally, we've had for the most part like a lot of success. In the States, it's been we made a much smaller splash. We had one of those little like mini theatrical things, and they did the VOD release with like a DVD, and then we just came out on Netflix in January. And I mean, nowadays that's where everybody usually sees their low budget horror movies. So, for the most part,
we've got low budget. I mean, after the Super Bowl on Sunday, how many people jumped over to Netflix to watch the new Cloverfield? It's kind of it's replacing going to the theater for a lot of this stuff, which is both good and bad. I think that there's an experience of going to the movie theater to see films, but then the idea of you've got all this entertainment right there. And my wife watches horror movies from the moment she gets up to when she goes to bed at night, other than when I come in and I interrupt to watch Jeopardy. So that is her whole day. She just sits there and draws gross stuff and watches horror movies. And nice. There's nothing better than having all this stuff available on Netflix or any of the different services that are out there right now, like Shudder and stuff.
Yeah. My kind of girl,
I will die soon, so I mean, there's a lineup for who gets her next.
If you need a dick drawn, Erin is your girl.
Nice. Oh, is that her artwork on the wall behind you?
That is an old painting of hers that I don't even know if she realizes I took. But it's in no way representative of the stuff that she's doing now. Sadly, she's just gone to a whole other thing. She started doing zine work and stuff, and so she did her own zine. The second issue just came out called "Let Them Eat Cock," which is all right. Female artists drawing renditions of penises in some way or another, and then beyond that, she's been featured in a lot of other stuff. But yeah, her stuff is weird. She's done a T-shirt for Matt's band too.
Nice.
Yep. I was like, hey, please do this, but with 100% less dick. I was like, no upside down crosses or penises, please. She delivered. Everyone loves the shirt, so.
Great. Well, maybe you could send me a link to some of her stuff. I'd love to check it out.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I don't even know where we left off in the conversation when we started talking about dicks.
Something with dicks, yeah.
It happens.
I guess we were talking about the reception and stuff, but it was, like internationally, yeah, the movie was very big, and characters like Gogo were hugely popular.
Gogo is great.
I really liked it.
Gogo stole the movie.
Yeah. He's based on a real guy. There's a guy in Thailand that we know. He drives a van, and he's a super cool guy, and his name is Gogo. So we
fuck yeah,
we named the character after Gogo, and in Thailand and the surrounding countries, I mean, they went crazy for Gogo. So.
Yeah, I can see why. The same sort of thing is that there's. You see Gogo show up, and he's just a guy driving a van who meets him at the airport and just wants to get his fare for the time that they're there, as long as he can. But when you start to peel back the layers and you find out more about his family and how he's got ideas as to what to do in the situation of the ghost house possession and everything, like there's a depth to these secondary characters that make them feel as important as the two characters in the main story. And I think that's really cool, because otherwise they could just be throwaways. Like I joked with Matt and I said, Gogo is like Short Round, but Short Round was incredibly important to the Indiana Jones movie that he was in. You know, you felt an attachment for that character the whole way across. He wasn't just somebody who was like Indy's partner for 5 minutes and gets killed. It's like he was key to that whole thing, and Gogo is as key to this as Julie and Jim are.
It's funny. One of the early reviews of Ghost House, that's what they were like. They said that Gogo was like Short Ground grew up.
Yeah.
So, you know,
which is awesome. Yeah, be that kid.
Awesome. I mean, like, you know, again, you're getting, you know, lumped in with Indiana Jones. You should, you know, you feel pretty good about your movie sometimes, you know.
Oh yeah. So at what point do you realize like you have to make another one of these? Like, I don't know how movies work, so I hope this isn't a stupid question, but it's like you could do an origin story of the Ghost, you could do an origin story of Reno, you could do a sequel to Ghost House as a whole, because clearly could be more. So you're talking about how you have to find out if there's a demand. So clearly you did very well everywhere and decent enough to get on Netflix, which can't be an easy task. You at least have to have. It's not like you have 90 minutes of like hot dog turd in blowing in the wind, and Netflix is like, "Fuck yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this."
Matt hasn't realized that they're on the 4th season of Fuller House, but yeah. I get what you're going for.
Yeah. I mean, well, there are a few reviews that sort of compared us to a hot steaming pile of dog shit, but you know, that's okay.
We call those people idiots.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That's what.
We happen to be idiots who sometimes review horror movies and not always in the nicest way. So yeah, critics suck, yes. And we suck just as much as anybody else.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you made a piece of art that you know you put all the effort into. You got funded, you got production, you got distribution. You've shown in places. You've gotten picked up to be on Netflix in America, but you've won awards in other places. Piss all over people like us, because that's not what we're doing.
Oh no, I mean, and like, look, I mean, you know, I can be just as much an asshole about other people's movies as people can be about ours. You know, it's like everybody's got an opinion, and you know, we live in a time where you can pretty much read everybody's opinion everywhere you go. But as far as making a sequel or continuing the story in some way, I mean, we would love to do it. And we're just again, it's just a bit of a waiting game. It won't be that much longer until we sort of start, getting producers' reports and seeing like how the movie did, and then we'll start exploring the potential of teasing this out, expanding it into something bigger. We did hear sort of through the grapevine that the company that released it in Thailand were very happy with how it performed. So they might maybe we would take it to them and see if they wanted to fund a sequel or whatever they wanted to do. I mean, just we'll explore all our options very soon, I think.
Would that color the story possibilities? Would you lean towards something like, if you were thinking about doing something with Reno that didn't necessarily take place in Thailand at first, but then you get the funding from them, would you alter plans, or is that where your plan was to begin with?
Well, we would definitely, I would love to return to Thailand or, the surrounding territories to make another movie. I mean, it's just, it's like more fun. It's like an adventure. You go out and you're shooting out in the jungle and you have an elephant and you're shooting in these villages with all these little Thai kids that are like hilarious and cool. And it's, and you're, like, I would say probably 85% of our crew were Thai people, and the food is so much better. And it's just like, everything is great. It's incredibly hard work, but at the same time, it's really like an adventure, and it's kind of, it's more fun than like, hey, let's drive up to Burbank and make a movie in, here in LA. So we would, regardless of where the funding came from, we would definitely want to shoot, over there.
Good.
But say if it is like a Reno backstory, kind of origin story kind of thing, I mean, if we had to start here, then we would start here and then take it over to Thailand,
Couldn't you, in theory, though, just shoot it in Thailand and say this is America?
Well, you could. It would be a little difficult, I mean, it would be easier to do that, say, like in Europe or something,
Yeah.
and then because everybody always shoots movies like over in like Romania or someplace, and they wonder why half the locals have these weird thick accents. But
Touche.
yeah. So we would like to keep it exotic if we could, international.
Well, I feel like we have to at least put forward the hope that you would somehow involve Russell again.
Oh yeah. Well, Russell's awesome. I mean, we cast him in Thailand, because we could only afford to bring so many people over with us. So we brought all our principals, James and Scout and Boone, and like just sort of our key crew members, our my DP and a script supervisor, costume designer, and the guy that did all the prosthetic makeup appliances and stuff. So we brought probably a dozen people over to Thailand. Everybody else was a local hire. So that, like all our crew, like our sound people and all of that stuff were local. And then we had to, cast, like Russell and Rich's parts there. There are a lot of, Europeans that live in Thailand, so it wasn't that difficult. But we got real lucky with Russell. And Gogo too. We cast him over there, Michael. So we got very lucky with him. A lot of guys came in to read for Gogo who had this great look, but their accents were so thick you could barely understand what they were saying. So then Michael came in. He can actually speak. He's half Thai, half Canadian. So he grew up in Canada. So he speaks English without an accent when he needs to.
Yeah, he was great. So, I mean, we talk about the Go-Go character, but Michael playing him really is what sold us on it.
Yeah. Yeah, he's awesome. Very likable guy. So.
Is it now? If I remember correctly, Russell told us that he was originally supposed to have an American accent in that movie.
No, originally it was written for Australians. We had written for the part was written because there are a lot of Australians come to Thailand because it's very close to Australia. But
and because Australians are criminals. Not kidding.
Yeah, exactly. So, but. We met Russell, and I think Rich was a friend of Russell's, the guy that plays his cohort in the film. So, yeah, but Russell's great, and he's I've stayed in touch with Russell a lot. We still talk quite a bit.
Yeah, he talks about this movie as like he loved the experience. He felt bad about his own contribution to it. He said that he learned a lot about acting, not just after this movie, but because of this movie, because of being inspired by the people that he worked with on it and stuff, that he went back and he trained more. But he just seemed so excited to have been a part of this. And that made it's kind of hard to separate when you know somebody who's in the movie. It's hard to separate that person out from just like enjoying the film as the film itself, because you look and you're like, oh yeah, that's a guy we like, and you just kind of you root for him. But I do like that his character and what was Rich?
Yep,
Rich.
Yeah, that they're not terrible people. Like there's a circumstance as to why they're doing something so awful, but it's because of the circumstance. It's not that they're themselves awful. And it kind of, it's not we're leading out in the woods to die because we take pleasure in that. It's like, we have to do this. And I like that.
Yeah. It's like an act of desperation. And I mean, Russell and I have talked about that a lot. I mean, he's very self-conscious about his performance in the movie. He doesn't, but we think he did a great job. We're very happy with his performance, and we never really receive any complaints. But I do get that, he was very inspired by, especially I think James is like very method, really intense in his, his like approach to acting is it's like very like old school method. And Scout's sort of the opposite. I mean, she's just like this. She's like so talented. She just turns it on like a faucet, and then like you're getting ready to shoot this big scary scene. She's just like goofing around, like flirting with the DP or something, and you call action, and she's just like screaming and freaking out, and then you just cut, and she's just back to like kind of flitting around and having fun. So she can just
that's like, amazing.
Yeah, it's I really actually never really seen anything like it. She's a complete natural.
Huh.
So
now you said you and your brother co-wrote this too.
Well, we came up with the idea after visiting Thailand for a couple. My brother's wife is Thai, and they had a kid, and we went over to Thailand, and we had a bunch of kind of like crazy experiences. We'd been there before, but this was the longest we had. This particular trip, we were there for a long time, and we experienced a lot of cool stuff and crazy stuff. And we came back here and sort of filtered that stuff through the idea of like turning it all into a film. And we were just like, this would be a great movie, and just chased it down. We ended up working with a couple of writers to help us really shape the script, but we came up with the big beats and the basic shape of things,
So is the concept of like the Thai ghost house, is that like an urban legend over there, or where did that come from?
They're ghost houses, or sometimes people call them like spirit houses. They're everywhere in Thailand. I mean, you don't go anywhere and not see them. I mean, they're outside of banks. Everybody has one outside of their house. I mean, like basically bar none. I mean, just anywhere you go, there are these like spirit houses, ghost houses, whatever. People leave these little offerings in them. And they're not generally considered like a scary thing, although they're very sacred. You wouldn't mess with them. But there's this idea that if a bad spirit gets in one, it can be quite bad. So then you have to get the monks out and all this kind of stuff. So we thought that was a pretty interesting idea. It had never really been featured in a Western horror film, as far as we could tell. And, the kind of basic conceit of going out to this ghost house graveyard came from my girlfriend had come with me, and she had really bad jet lag when we had first gotten there. And I was trying to get her up and, get her moving so we could get her on schedule. And I took her for a walk out in this jungle near where we were staying. And we came across this place where all the locals had just dumped all their old ghost houses. They're all these like old broken ghost houses. And we're like taking pictures and poking around, just like in the movie, although we weren't there with a couple of sinister British guys, but, we're like taking stuff out of these old broken ghost houses. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, this is a really bad idea, but, it might be a good idea for a movie. We actually had Go-Go was the guy that had been driving us around. And we asked him, we were like, hey, if we went back there, could we go and take one of those home with us? And he was just like, no way, not my van. So
you're looking out for you. See, that's another thing too, is that recently there was a YouTube star who got in trouble for being seen as very disrespectful in another country. And
he also showed a dead body on YouTube.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I'm trying to be diplomatic about what I'm saying. But like, I remember 20 something years ago when the guy got caned, when the American was getting caned because he did something. And then I think they did a Simpsons episode about it. But when you're in another country, that's always my worry, is that because cultures are different, because things that we kind of take for granted here, that they don't fly like that someplace else. Do you have any kind of worry about, are we doing something disrespectful? Are we doing something that's going to get us in trouble with the authorities, that kind of thing? When you're doing an independent film, I can't imagine that you have the same luxury of the lawyers and stuff you'd have on a Hollywood movie.
Sure.
So what happened?
Well, I'm sorry. I mean,
well, that's just it. You were saying like you thought about taking some of that stuff back, not meaning you were looking at it as doing something disrespectful, but just it looked like stuff that people just got rid of. And if I'm out on the street and someone has tossed an old dollhouse And my expectation is, well, they got rid of it, so it's probably okay for me to just take it if I want to take it home and do something with it. Which sounds really weird to say, but
Yeah.
Well, but in this case, there's something deeper to that for their culture that
Sure.
you being outside of their culture wouldn't have known. And that's sort of what the whole crux of the movie is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so yes, and the thing is, like, we love Thailand, and like, part of our family is Thai at this point. So we don't want to do anything that is like unintentionally disrespectful or anything. And so when we went to make the film, I mean, one of the things is you have to get permission to make the film in Thailand. You have to send the script to the like a cultural, they actually translate it into Thai, and there's a sort of cultural attaché or something that they run all this stuff by. And then they decide if, and there are certain very strict rules, like you can't show any pictures of the king. The king is a very beloved figure over there, and you can't show Buddha in a certain way, and all these very specific rules, and our script was approved. And then on top of that, I would say about 80% of our crew was Thai, and matter of fact, I had an AD who was Thai, and he was the best AD I ever had. I mean, he was really great. And but he was frank. If we ever had anything that seemed like not right, that could be offensive or what, he would tell me straight up. So I feel like, there are a lot of Americans, I think, that, or not a lot, but there's some Americans that'll probably look at our film and be like, oh, this is, I don't know, cultural appropriation or whatever, or just insensitive. But, the movie was a big hit over there. I mean, the Thai people are not offended by the film, and we tried to be as respectful as we could. I mean, really, the idea is like when you're in Thailand, you see a lot of tourists. They're just like assholes, it's embarrassing to see, these like, kind of like white college kids just, getting drunk and so that's kind of part of our, really the Americans are the ones, or the foreigners are the ones that are kind of doing all the fucked up stuff. And the Thai people are, we feel like, for the most part, all, benevolent figures.
Yeah, I'm an American sports figure, so it's going to be okay for me to steal this stuff from your shop, and no one will say anything to me because look who I am. And it's like, no, you're nobody, and hell, even if you were very, very important, you're still an asshole, and we got laws for a reason. So why do you think it's okay to break them?
Totally. I mean, when you were watching the film, did you feel like it was disrespectful at all?
No, I didn't feel like anything you guys did was disrespectful. My thought is just, what if I accidentally do something that, because I don't recognize their culture, I'm not as immersed into it, that it causes a situation to be, and not with malice, but just out of ignorance.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's a legitimate concern and something we were worried about, and but like I said, I mean, we worked very closely with our Thai crew. Actually, I mean, there are even things in the movie that we added because they suggested. I mean, we were designing the ghost. I was already in Thailand location scouting, and the guy that was building all the prosthetics would send me pictures, and I would send him back notes and stuff, and they did their first makeup test with the ghost on our actress, and I showed it to my Thai crew, and they were like, cool, but they were like, you should give her really long fingernails. And I was like, well, why is that? And they're like, well, back in the old days when someone died, they would leave the body out for people to come, from far away, relatives to come and mourn the person before they buried them or cremated them or whatever. And so even though they were dead, their fingernails would continue to grow, so that in the legends, all the ghosts have long fingernails because the bodies would sort of lay around for a while before they, interred them. So we were like, that's a cool detail. We'll keep it. We put it in, and it also makes for like kind of an iconic thing,
Yeah. No, and that's the other thing too, is that your ghost was very iconic. Like at this point in time, when we're starting to recognize more and more characters in movies that are the antagonists, the spirits or whatever, things like The Conjuring and Annabelle and stuff, is that your ghost stood out, had a very strong, significant look, that as you're watching it, every time she appeared, you kind of hungered for those moments. You waited for those moments to happen. You anticipated them, and you wanted to see that more and more. And I think it was cool how it wasn't utilized a lot until the end, and the end was like really up the ante of everything that you were kind of anticipating throughout the movie.
Cool. I mean, I'm glad you guys think so. We tried. That was definitely the goal, was to make to have a cool, I mean, like my brother and I, we grew up watching horror movies. And so, the monster or the ghost or whoever, they're always the most interesting character. It's like, with the exception of like Jamie Lee Curtis or something, you don't tend to remember who the hero was, but you remember Jason, you remember Freddy, you remember Chucky or whoever it is, you always remember the bad guys. So you want to have somebody that's memorable, So
people remember the final girl, but you build a franchise around the Freddy Krueger.
This is true. Yeah, well, I mean, it's like the villains. I mean, historically, I mean, villains are just more interesting than good guys. Good guys are less complicated, and the bad guys get all the good lines or get all the cool costumes or whatever.
Well, you're also, if you're going to see a horror movie, you're going to see the kills, and then the killer is the one who's going to be in all the most interesting parts of that movie.
So I have a somewhat off-topic question that came up by me creeping on your Facebook page. How was Helvet?
What's that?
How was going to Helvet in Oslo?
Oh, that was awesome. I mean, it's also a very painful thing for me, because this project, we've been trying to develop a sort of Lords of Chaos style project for a long time. And that was really the movie I really wanted to make. And we just couldn't get any traction with it. We had some legal issues and stuff. And it got sort of abandoned. And in my heart, I always wanted to make the Norwegian black metal movie. And Jonas Ackerlund just filmed it. It just came out at Sundance this year. And, so I'm very excited to see it, but I'm a little sad because I really wanted to make a movie about that.
If you're listening and you're not sure, so Helvet was a record store that's guitar player from Mayhem.
Yeah,
Euronymous. Yeah, he opened. And I recently found out that he wanted it to be so dark in there that you had to browse records by torchlight. We're like, well, that's not a fucking terrible idea or anything. You're going to burn the goddamn place down. But so now that it's reopened, is it like normal in there, or is it still weird and dark?
Well, actually, the place where Helvet was is now a like sort of a cafe. And it's called Our Daily Bread. It's kind of ironic, because it has this sort of biblical sounding kind of, but there is a black metal themed record store called Nosebleed Records in Oslo now, and you can go there and they have like a bunch of the old Mayhem cassette tapes and stuff in a glass case on the wall, and
I never understood Mayhem as a band. Like, it's not good to me.
Well,
so
for me, the story is not so much about the music, but it's about the scene and
holy fucking shit. I'm like halfway through, not even halfway through. Last podcast on the left did a Norwegian black metal series. So I just kind of started listening to that. I mean, I knew a guy who was like, just thought Mayhem was the fucking kitty's titties. And he would play it, and I'm like, what?
I don't think most people listen to Mayhem because they're like a great band. I think it's more, they're interested in the mythology behind the band,
The story is intense. I didn't realize, their hatred for Napalm Death and some of the American thrash metal bands because they're not real metal. And
well, I mean, there were the like what this is all pre-internet, but before like they would like in zines and stuff, they would flame each other, just like the Swedish metal bands and the Norwegian bands and stuff. They would just like threaten to kill each other and badmouth each other. It was
Debbie Gibson and Tiffany.
Yeah, yeah. She'll not. Yeah.
Thanks, Corey. We're talking about Mayhem and Debbie Gibson.
Yeah,
Mayhem,
that's what
Debbie Gibson. Anyway, but it's such a great story. I mean, it's like Shakespearean, and it's like kind of scope that story. So I'm real curious to see the movie.
I'm a little jealous. I've always wanted to go over there. Haven't made it over there.
Yeah,
Corey, let's go. You and me. Mandate.
Yes, I should definitely go to another country and watch you fawn over bands that I've never heard of and drink to a super where you forget who I am and sell me for more beer money.
Well, you already know how it's going to pan out, so now I don't have to convince you.
Absolutely do.
I don't have to talk
If
to you.
you don't think that I haven't mailed letters to 3 different news reporters waiting for the day when I wind up missing.
Well, the Norwegians can drink too, man. I mean, they're very like serious people until they drink, and then they're incredibly affectionate.
Someday.
Yeah.
That's how he'll sell me, is because of the affection.
Yeah.
You could buy the chubby one. He's good to cuddle with.
Not my first time being auctioned off, actually.
Oh, jeez. We're going to get into some dark times in Corey's life if we keep this up.
It sounds like you guys' relationship might make a decent film too. So
we
actually have only met once.
Yeah, I went to San Francisco back in May for work, June for work, and that's the one time we met. We were together for like 2 hours.
Nice.
I didn't kill him.
Yeah,
he didn't kill me.
Too many witnesses.
That's true.
Met in a nice, brightly lit public place. With lots of
we met down on the wharf, so there's a lot of people around.
Yeah.
A lot of people going down on the wharf, actually.
Hey-o. What else do you do? There's so many things that you do. It's really hard to pick one to talk to you about, or you have done. What do you have coming up?
Well,
outside of hopefully another ghost house.
Well, my brother and I are working on a couple of different projects. They're in very nascent stages, so it's a little tough to talk about them. But I did a short film for Fox, actually, that was part of a series of short films they're producing. And I did it last year, and not much happened. And I just got an email from them. They said something exciting is going to happen, and we're going to tell you in March. So...
Thanks for the blue balls, Fox.
But it turned out pretty well. It's a fun little short film, and I saw some of the other ones, and they're pretty good. Actually, some of them they aired around Halloween as like commercials for M&Ms on American Horror Story. 3 of them, and they produced I think like 20 or 15 or something. I did one of them. So,
damn.
That's actually really awesome.
Now I have a reason to like watch commercials on Fox.
What's that?
So now I have a reason to watch commercials on Fox.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know what they say.
Please, please do.
But yeah, so I'm I just got that news yesterday actually that there's something mysterious that's going to happen, and they're going to at least announce in March. So. But that and I'm up for a couple music videos. We'll see if I get them. But and then like I said, my brother and I were developing actually a series idea too. So, like we met today with the writer, and we're working on that. So,
what is holy shit? You did a sword video?
Oh yeah. I
was going to ask you what your favorite music video that you've worked on was.
Well, my favorite one, as far as how it turned out, was probably I did one for Sean Lennon and Charlotte Kemp Mull's band called "The Ghost of a Saber-Toothed Tiger," Sean Lennon being like John Lennon's kid, obviously, and the video is called Animals. I shot it on 35, and it's very psychedelic and 60s and weird and drugged out. But the Sword video was fun to do because I really liked the Sword before I got the gig. They sent the song, and I was like, I must get this gig. So. So I do I like all that doom stuff like that, and the Sword are very.
I got a buddy of mine's in a doom metal band. Well, it's blackened doom. So it's like super slow, and then 3 minutes of blast beats in a 9-minute song.
Nice.
So I don't like doom metal. I actually got a couple friends in doom metal bands. I'll send you all the shit when we're done.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
Just to show again the difference between Matt's taste in music and my taste in music, Sean Lennon, I was really into this band that he was in for a brief time called Chiba Mato.
Oh yeah, they just broke up.
And I've never heard of them.
They were great.
Yeah, I mean they were on his label, so Chimera Records. So, well, I just did an animated music video for his girlfriend is Charlotte Kemp Mull, and she's a really talented musician. And I did a music video for her new band called Uni, like the sushi, like UNI. And it's all hand drawn animation. So
if it's all hand drawn, how do you come into this?
I drew it.
Oh, you drew it. Okay,
wow.
I didn't know you could draw too. I don't mean to like short sell your abilities. I didn't. Holy shit, man!
Rich is a goddamn Renaissance man.
Well, it's like I don't know.
And if you're not watching this, you cannot see the terrific beard he's donning either.
I'm working on it a while.
I'm falling in love over here. So play your cards right, and we will continue to live thousands of miles apart.
Which is just basically he'll sell you as soon as he has the opportunity.
You want to go to Sweden so I can sell you?
Hey man, that's what I'm here for.
He's a team player.
Yeah, the Uni video is it's all hand drawn animations done very much in like in a 1970s kind of like almost like if Schoolhouse Rock went really really wrong.
Is that video out already?
Yeah, it's out. It's on YouTube. It just came out like maybe a month or two ago. If you look at it's called Mushroom Cloud is the name of the song, and Uni is the band, and it's got an animated Donald Trump fucking a missile and dancing.
How can you tell that from the real one?
Oh my God! So clearly, I think we're all in the same thought pattern here on our current president. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, so this weekend, because I love my wife, once a year I go help her in her rabbit rescue at a an animal expo in Milwaukee. That's where I got stuck. It was 3:00 in the afternoon, and a drunk lady walks up to me and sets her beer down. And jokingly, I was like, "Nah, you didn't have to do that. Like, thanks for the beer, but I'm working here." And she's like, "Ah, whatever. You look thirsty." Fast forward, and she goes, "You know what I like to do? I like to pop popcorn and watch the news because Donald Trump is the best president ever, and everything he does is awesome." And I looked at her and I said, "Ori's a douchebag." And she just stared at me and she goes, "You goddamn millennials." And I'm like, yes. I said, "Whatever, lady." I'm like, go home. If you're trashed at a pet expo, you got to get your fucking life together. Hey, there's dicks. Dick missiles.
I'm probably related to her, so it's a
man, she's a please don't be related.
Like not even a semblance of just showing some decor of, well, you were so kind to bring me the beer. Let me just say, yeah, our opinions might differ. No, he's a douchebag. Well,
you know what? At that point, so this pet expo is a very long weekend. It entails me leaving work early. It is me and 2 5-foot-tall women. So I have to do all the tall person stuff and all the heavy lifting. So by 3:00, I'm fucking tired. The last thing I want to do is lie to some little old lady who's drunk when I want to be drunk about our president.
Yeah.
This is a fucking great video. Sorry, I'm watching Donald Trump ride a missile while his face is being peeled back. I gotta send this to Jack. A friend of ours who's the host of a Simpsons podcast likes to call Donald Trump a cunt on their show a lot. and he hasn't
Oh,
been
well.
arrested yet. So he's got that going
Nice.
for him.
Well, you know,
One of the drawings in this looks like the Lou Reed character Mock from Rock and Roll. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have seen that movie. It may not be a total coincidence.
Oh, man.
One way or another. I'm a big fan of 1970s like animation, like heavy metal and the Pink Floyd The Wall movie and all Ralph Bakshi stuff, you know, like Fritz the Cat and Heavy Traffic and all that. So
How do you feel about Cool World?
We don't talk about Cool World, but
One of my best friends is an artist. We've done comic stuff together. He's a much more prolific comic person than I am, but Cool World is his favorite movie. He loves all the Bakshi, but he recognizes that Cool World's awful.
yeah,
But he totally loves it because it was probably, you know, in the age of when he saw it was a huge deal. And it's like me and Xanadu. Like Xanadu is my favorite movie. I don't care, but it's
no, I'm all for it. Well, you know, like one of my first jobs out of high school was working at a video store, and we had Heavy Traffic, Ralph Bakshi's movie from, you know, like in I guess the early 70s or something. I just stole the tape and took it home, and I used to watch that movie like on a loop almost. For me, it's his best film, you know, but I don't know. But look, I mean, there's things to love in Cool World, I suppose, you know, just not the actual movie.
it always amazed me that Kim Basinger is a better actress animated than she is as a human being. Like the total change in how she acted as soon as they stopped drawing her and she showed up on the actual screen, it's like, wow, she just got terrible really, really fast.
Yeah. Yes. You know, I mean, it's a different, it's just not, I mean, I want to love the movie because I
Of course.
Actually, you know, I'm not as big a fan of like his fantasy movies, like his Lord of the Rings movie and stuff. It's all okay. But I like the grittier Fritz the Cat kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, Fritz was good.
Yeah.
Or his Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, Mighty Mouse, you know. He's great though. I actually you know, I sent him the Uni video on via Facebook so he could see it, you know.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm a fan, you know, and I mean it's like heavily inspired, probably more by him than anybody else. So I mean, you know, like Schoolhouse Rock and all that really bad like Saturday morning 70s stuff, you know, but you know, Pink Floyd, The Wall, and all that stuff, but him in particular. So I sent it to him, and he sent me a nice email back. You know, he said a lot of nice things. So that
is so great.
I was like, yeah, that's so good. Yeah, I mean, I you know, when I was a kid, I drew obsessively. So, and I still do just like a hobby. And Charlotte from Uni, she's seen my drawings and stuff. We've worked together on a couple of different projects, and she was just, I think she was even maybe kidding. She's like, I want you to do an animated video for my band. And I was like, okay, you know. And so one thing led to another, and I did the video.
How long ago? That was like within, 6 months, a year that you started that?
Yeah, I started it actually in the summer, but it was kind of, I didn't work on it like every day because it was like we were going to Thailand for the premiere of the film, and then the movie premiered here, and you know, I did the Fox short, and I did a couple other music videos that were like live action, a lot easier to do. So it was kind of done in the cracks.
So did you draw like pen and paper, or did you use an iPad?
Yeah, no, I did pen and paper, and I scanned it in. I colored it all in Photoshop and stuff, and edited it on the computer, but it was all, I drew everything by hand, you know. So
how many how many sheets drawing?
There's a big stack up in my studio.
So I figured. It's impressive.
So yeah, cool. I hope you guys dig it. I had a lot of fun doing it. So
And I'm like 29 seconds in, and I've got to pause so we can have our conversation.
Yeah,
but
I had to watch
totally
it
into
muted so that the audio doesn't show up on the podcast. But
Yeah.
visually, it's fucking cool. I have to make a note to watch that in the sword video tomorrow.
Nice.
Actually,
Well, the
just all
song
of
is
them,
it's a
but-
great song. So Charlotte does really her band is very cool. It's like very like 70s kind of psychedelic glam kind of stuff like T-Rex, David Bowie, that kind of stuff. Yeah, they're great. So
I'm excited. I this is probably going to go into my rotation because that is kind of stuff that I like.
Shocker.
cool.
Well, 70s music, man. And we always go back to the music from our youth.
That's true. I listened to a lot of Cold Chamber last week. A lot of weird memories to fucking Cold Chamber.
Oh, well,
Here's the part of the show where Matt reminds me that I'm 100.
That was when was that? It was like one of the first times I went on tour. We stopped at a gas station. I just remember walking around the corner. I was very tired, and I grabbed a Reese's Big Cup, and I looked at one of the guys in our band, and it just went Big Cup, and I put it down and walked away. And if you like Cold Chamber, that's funnier than if you've never ever heard the song Big Truck. I live a simple life. What else do you want to talk about? Your life.
About my life?
Yeah, you want to tell us about like growing up, what it was like?
Me and my brother, we grew up in the South. I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and played in bands, and, it was just kind of a ne'er-do-well, and got my shit together, and,
Yeah, no one ever really gets their shit together.
Yeah, that's the kind of the thing. It's like, if you don't get your shit together, you're not going to get out of the little towns and stuff you grow up in, but I managed to escape. So... And it's just, it's been a fun ride, man. So I went to music school and got all serious about stuff and came out here to LA to be a composer. And, and then like Forrest Gump my way into making movies,
So you just ran really fast?
Yeah, pretty much. No, I'm just like,
What is Forrest Gumping other than running like hell?
Well, Forrest, just like I always liken my career to that because it's like you go to music school, like as a kid, I used to draw all the time, and my parents were, when I told them I wanted to be a musician, they were like, "You're an idiot, you should be an artist." It's kind of a weird position to be like the kid where your parents want you to go to art school instead of music school. It's like a weird thing. But
I just remember my dad sitting around being like, "Are you done yet? Are you going to be an adult now?" Like, God, fuck, man. He was right, too.
Oh, man. Well, my mom said to me once when I was a little kid, she was like, her brother had wanted to be a rock star, and it never worked out for him and stuff. And she's like, "Rich, you'll never make a dime as a musician." So that was just all I had to hear. It's like, I'm going to be a musician now,
But, okay, so I know how it went for me. So at what point were you like, yeah, no, there's no fucking money in this?
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's no money in it being in a rock band, but there's tons of money if you can get like jobs on sitcoms and video games and stuff.
Again, I have to say, one of my all-time favorite shows, Less Than Perfect, you did music for. I love that show. I watched that show obsessively.
Wow. Yeah, you and I think like 7 other people.
Yeah, I know, but
It's real popular.
Like Zachary Levi is going to be Shazam now. He's going to be in a DC superhero movie. And he came from that show. It had such a great cast. I was addicted to that show.
Well, I remember when I was first doing sitcoms, you'd see these people like Sarah Silverman would just show up on these shows and, she'd just be a guest star and, you'd be like, kind of like, "Oh, that girl's cute and funny." And, and now she's like the hugest star ever. But, But I never really had any contact with those people because I was always working in post, it's like...
But it's like you've probably been an earworm in my head and I never knew it.
Oh, yeah, well, that's possible.
Rated.
Although, yeah. Cool. Well, I'm happy that somebody watched some of those shows. I mean, we worked on some big shows too, and so like, or shows that were more successful, like Will and Grace and King of Queens and stuff. But
yeah, but that's the thing is like every show is somebody's favorite show.
yeah,
You know, somebody loved
true.
that show, and I'm the guy. I'm the guy who remembers the rerun show, and I'm the guy who watched every episode of Less Than Perfect.
Rerun show, man.
Oh man, like that had some really
that
good
was a
people
fun one to work on though. They let you do. I get to do a lot of weird music on that show, and
it was a weird show.
It was a weird show. It lasted, I think, it was on TV for 30 seconds, but you know.
I'm gonna have to find this show.
It was the rerun show was like a kind of like they would take these like old sitcoms and kind of make these like spoofs of them, you know, like they did a version of it would be like a mashup of the Osbournes and Married with Children, you know.
Yeah.
So instead of Al Bundy, Ozzy Osbourne, you know, it was like a very strange show, you know.
Yeah, it started out with them actually using the scripts from the shows and just kind of like every part in the show where you wouldn't imagine that there was on Different Strokes there was a double entendre intended. On this, they would just completely go with it, and but it was just so much fun, and they would let the actors switch up parts. Like one person would get to play Gary Coleman one episode, and then a different person would play him another episode. One of the people who played Mrs. Garrett, I think, went on to be on Mad TV after that. Like it was
interesting. You remember
a lot of
better than I do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, of course I do. That's how my brain works.
So
all I have is the past.
The rerun show premiered on July 31st, 2002, and the last episode was on August 19th, 2002.
Yeah. It didn't last.
I gotta find this. It's
probably on, you know, the dark.
Yeah, I'm currently on the dark corners of the internet trying to obtain it.
Yeah, well, you know, keep your expectations low.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of like Tim and Eric.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like it sounds like this might be kind of in the same wheelhouse of comedy, or let me rephrase that. Because I don't think anyone does anything like Tim and Eric, but like the weird outlandish shit that most people just don't fucking understand.
Well, I mean, it definitely was kind of like one of those. It was one of those shows where you were like, "How did this ever get on the air?" You know,
Right.
I mean, who greenlit this? You know, it was.
That guy probably lost his job when this was on TV.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was so long ago. It's just kind of like a fuzzy, vague memory for me at this point.
But I reread an article the other day about Savage Steve Holland and how he did Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer and then couldn't get work because those movies that should have been huge and were huge on HBO and in video stores, but they just couldn't be successful. And you just think, how does Savage Steve Holland like disappear into obscurity and wind up doing Nickelodeon and Disney shows for the rest of his life? Because those movies were genius. Eek the Cat was a genius cartoon.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes it's just that Hollywood doesn't know how to market something, or the audience isn't ready yet for that thing. And then years later, they go back and like, how did we miss this? Like, you get half a season of Firefly. It's not because the show wasn't good. It's because the fucking Fox didn't know shit to do with it.
How do you really feel, Corey?
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally there with you with the Steve Holland stuff. I mean, I love his sense of humor, and he's also an animator. You know, he had all that animation and stuff in those movies. It's just like fun, weird, off the wall kind of stuff. And you know, like Better Off Dead, half the movie the kid's trying to kill himself, and you know, it's like some grim, funny humor, man. You know, it's just like I don't know, but. Yeah, sometimes these guys just they remain kind of cult figures. They can't quite get.
And there's nothing wrong with being a cult figure. No, well, I mean, again, aside from Newsweek or People Live by Matt, but just in general, there's nothing wrong with having a small audience that absolutely loves you over a large audience who likes your shit for a little while and then completely forgets it the next day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I actually think that guys like that tend to have much more longevity, really. I mean, people remember them, you know. because the people that it appeals to will love it for forever. They'll whereas whoever directed, I don't know, like the new Annabelle movie or something might be a good director, but it's probably not as memorable because it's one in a series of films and the style's already codified and stuff, so you're not gonna remember it more than any of the other films.
Yeah, or be the guy who directs the middle movie in the new Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
And like you make a great spectacle of a film, but people are just so happy to shit all over it that you're going to always be looked at as a failure because you only made $1.2 billion, but you got beat out a couple weeks later by Jumanji for 5 weeks straight. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure sucking it up, all this loss. And it's like, yeah, but you take that same person and you let them do their dream project, the thing that they love, and you get rid of the interference and you just let them go for it. And they probably make something that's mind-blowing to, again, a much smaller group of people. But that group of people will be talking about that movie for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
I would like to point out, since Rich so generously mentioned the new Annabelle movie, the director also directing Shazam.
Oh, far out.
Yep.
Taking it back
I
to
mean, I'm sure, I actually just saw the latest Annabelle movie.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was quite good, actually. It was very well done. I resented it a little bit because if it wasn't for the new Annabelle movie, we would have been the #1 movie in Thailand when we came out. But
well, fuck that movie then. It sucks.
Yeah, I was but I just now watched it and I thought it was quite well done. And I mean, the director's obviously it's actually much better than the one that came before it. I think.
I agree.
Was he really understood how to sort of build like suspense and tension. It was good.
I think it's super weird. So it's this. I
sort of pulled that out of my ass because I just watched it. But it is like the one thing about I think directing something that's in a franchise like that is that like I don't think you are given the kind of freedom or the opportunity to sort of develop to put your own stamp on it.
Yeah.
You don't get to go in your garage and film cut up chicken hearts.
He's done like a bunch of horror stuff and then Shazam.
No, that's cool.
Which I think is a little odd, but yeah. Good for him.
That's cool. Well, I mean, a lot of horror guys get kind of you get pigeonholed and stuff. I mean, some of us like if I got pigeonholed making horror films, I'd be perfectly happy. But
well, the guy who created the Conjuring stuff and Insidious and the Saw stuff, James Wan is doing Aquaman over it for DC. Mm-hmm. So it's cool if you're a person who's worked with James Wan on his horror stuff. You're like, yeah, I'll do this Annabelle movie for you. Then James like, yeah, let me help you get over here, and then you get to do Shazam. I mean, make that DC money.
James Wan also producing the new Mortal Kombat movie.
Wow.
Which I'm very excited about because I'm a child.
and Mortal Kombat, definitely kids game.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I met George Romero once a long time ago. Some friends of ours had produced one of his last, zombie movies. And, I mean, I'm a big fan. I'd seen all his movies when I was a little kid. And he said that he was saying that, like, in his heart, he would love to direct like a movie like Sound of Music or something, but no one will ever.
No one will allow that.
Yeah, no one will hire him to do that. And he goes, so if I want to make a movie, I have to call him up and be like, hey, I got this idea for a zombie movie,
Yeah.
So it was a little sad, actually,
I actually co-wrote a comic with John A. Russo, who was the co-writer on Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, right on. Cool. How was it?
He doesn't know me from Adam, but it was like he knew the girl whose comic it was, and it was actually a character that Levi had helped develop with her. So Levi was doing the art, and John had just given him a loose plot-based thing for the comic to do, and he couldn't figure out how to script it, so he had me do it. So I get a writing credit with the guy who wrote Night of the Living Dead, which is just crazy to me.
Totally. Wow, that's super cool. But yeah, I don't know, I'd be perfectly happy to be pigeonholed as like a horror guy as long as I get to keep working, Yeah,
and that's what Russell was saying last week. He's just excited to keep getting work. He wants to keep acting. He wants to eat, but I can't think of a genre that to me feels more rewarding than horror. I understand that there are hardcore sci-fi people and everything, but it just seems like sci-fi, you really have to get it right. There's such a rule and order to what people expect out of the sci-fi genre, whereas horror can be all over the map and none of it's wrong.
That is true. I mean, horror, the cool thing about all the genre stuff like horror or sci-fi or whatever, I mean, it's like you can kind of tell subversive stories, this again, it's like I went to hear David Cronenberg talk one time, and he was talking about how he likes doing genre stuff because you get to tell these stories that you would never get to tell otherwise. He was talking about making The Fly, and he's like, if I were to go into the studio and be like, hey, I've got this idea for a movie. It's about a scientist and he gets this debilitating disease and his body's just falling apart and he's getting sicker and sicker and becoming demented. And at the end of the film, as an act of mercy, his girlfriend shoots him in the head with a shotgun. He goes, they would just throw me across Sunset Boulevard, He goes, but if I start off by saying, I got this idea for a horror movie about a guy that turns into a fly, and then they're like, oh yeah, tell me more, So,
well, how far is that first one from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Well, I don't know, but that was the late 60s and the 70s. That's when everybody got to make cool movies, man.
Yeah. But Cronenberg's another great example of it. He's a guy who makes all this great stuff and everything and could just be content doing that, but then also shows up in other people's stuff just to be that creepy scientist guy in Jason X or in Nightbreed. And it's like, how fucking cool is that? That you're into it so much that you want to be in other people's things that don't even have to do with your own work, and you just want to be a part of it.
Hey man, he's a hero.
Yeah. Or it's like Carpenter. Carpenter could live the rest of his days just being the guy who made Halloween and any of the number of films that he's done, but how much he's put into music and stuff. And that's this whole other level of people loving him because we've listened to his music for decades, but then you hear it and you hear the new stuff now and it just kind of brings you all back, even though it's new things.
Yeah.
And it's like a brand new career, even though it's been part of his career the whole time.
Totally. I mean, even though like sort of narratively Ghost House probably doesn't resemble John Carpenter very much, stylistically, there were a lot of things we did that were very much influenced by him. I mean, even down to our choice of lenses and stuff. I mean, we used these anamorphic lenses that like 70s anamorphic lenses to get that kind of look. And in some of the music I intentionally wrote to kind of be evocative of John Carpenter, so, like the scene where Russell is driving James and Scout out to the Ghost House graveyard and stuff. I was like, we're going to make this a real Carpenter moment,
I want to watch it again to listen to it more. Mm-hmm. Because the first time through, I'm watching it and I'm trying to understand the story and see everything. You need a couple of times through to get your different senses kind of aligned on something.
Yeah. Well, I can send you, how I sent you guys that clip about the making of the effects. I have one also about the music that I'll send you. We haven't actually made it public yet. It was a value added thing if you bought it on iTunes or something. They didn't want to bother putting it on the DVD for some reason, but. So if you bought the movie on iTunes, you got to see these little video clips, but we're slowly sort of releasing them to the world, so I'll send it to you guys. You guys will get a little advanced peek.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of the movie again, so Jim is not a very sympathetic character. He's kind of both he's supposed to be the kind of hero of the movie, but while he's the protagonist, he's not someone that you can just like, because he does so many dickish things. And then even when he's in the midst of being heroic, he just doesn't go far enough in his love for his fiance. Like, oh yeah, I'll make this sacrifice and everything. It's like, can't we? Like, he just kind of tries to talk his way out of it. But aren't we good enough right now? Isn't this far enough? Was that intentional? Was that just kind of how the character developed?
Well, I mean, it was intentional in a way. I mean, again, it's kind of like gets back to the 70s. I mean, there are a lot of these guys, and like the protagonists in the 70s films are sort of, they're not the like sort of typical Hollywood, just like, generic, like good guy boyfriend kind of thing. I mean, and like we caught a little flack from it. Maybe it was the wrong idea, but we wanted to have this arc where it's like this guy is basically, a guy. He's not really he's not the like doting perfect boyfriend kind of thing. And he has to, sort of grow up and become a man, and like ultimately do the right thing, So, I don't know. And I don't know if that reads or not. I mean, that was definitely the intention, was to kind of give him an arc, so he doesn't he starts off being basically like irresponsible and, and we had some other character stuff early in the film that we had to cut out sort of for time that I think would have fleshed that out a little more, but it was, it was just too much. We wanted to get to the ghost and the scary stuff. But it is interesting. I mean, he's not, and like originally we cast a different actor to play that part, who I think would have played it a little more sort of, sort of broadly, a little more cartoony, I think might have taken some of that edge off, and James is very intense and very method. So we kind of went with that and I don't know. So I don't know if you arc or not. I mean, that was definitely meant to be. So when he finally does the thing, no spoilers or whatever, that, to save his girlfriend, it would feel like he's finally been kind of heroic, but.
See, to me, it felt like he was like, fine, I'll fucking do it. If it were me and it was like, that's all I have to do. Yeah, sign me up. But that's the thing is you're a long time married. I'm long time married. There is nothing I wouldn't do. I feel like I would be more likely to do that before we were married.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you know what I mean though? It's like I still have to try. Now we're married. It's like whatever.
It's like
there's paperwork involved. Believe me.
Like, how much are we paid up with State Farm?
Like, our thought also was like, if somebody tells you got to do this thing, like basically mutilate yourself, and maybe you don't still 100% believe any of this stuff. You're not sure if any stuff is true or not. That's kind of the idea, is that like, I don't know. For me personally, because I draw and play guitar and all this stuff, it would be very difficult.
See,
it is a sacrifice.
As a drummer, I'm worried about my legs. Like, what happens if I fucking break my femur or some shit? So, but losing a finger, that wouldn't be that.
Yeah, totally. So maybe maybe that came from a personal place. With my brother and I are both musicians. We both play guitar.
But that makes perfect sense, though. Hearing that as the explanation for it.
But so that was our intention. Hopefully it reads. I don't know. There are a couple of things in the film that I wish read a little better, but I mean, all in all, though, I'm very proud of the movie. I mean, I feel like we did, as good a job as we could.
No, you absolutely should be, and I think it does read well because it makes him not perfect.
Yeah,
that I don't want to see the perfect people up on screen. Not all the time. There's something for showing heroism, and in kind of movie that you're going for that, it would make sense. In this movie, yeah, I mean, the whole thing starts out because she's already having a fight with him about the way that he's acting.
Yeah.
You know, and she's giving him everything, and he's kind of just treating her not horribly, but like kind of an afterthought compared to what he wants to do or his fun or his needs. And you're right. The arc for him is going through this and putting her ahead of him finally at the end to get to that point of like, is she more important than what I feel or what I need?
Yeah. Well, and we tried to sort of do it progressively. So he's got to like sort of slowly man up. And also, you know, like he doesn't take the opportunity to do the same thing to other people that like, you know, Robert and Rich had done to him. And so, you know, it's this kind of progression, you know, you see that, you know, and our idea is that maybe that's also partly Go-Go's influence on him and stuff. You know, you see he's getting ready to take him out to the countryside, and he gets a kind of look at Go-Go, and he just sort of realizes he's doing the wrong thing. And then, you know, from there, then he's got to be more proactive. He goes and, you know, has to do a couple of things that are less than legal, and then go and basically kidnap Reno. I'll just tell everybody the whole movie here, but you know, and you know, so that it's a progression. You know, it's an arc. It's not just like he's, you know, like a lot of times in movies, the protagonist almost always seems. It's just like for them, it just like they'll always do the right thing. It's just figuring out what the right thing is. Whereas in our movie, you know, there's maybe a little ambivalence at first, you know, I don't know. That was the intention, at least, you know, we tried.
No, I think you nailed it.
Okay.
Absolutely. But that's the thing is we're not trying to pick it apart. We're just trying to get
please.
what your thought process was in making the movie and writing these characters and stuff, coming up with the story.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, well, look, I mean, I've had this discussion with like the guy that edited my film. I mean, he and I are very good friends, but we basically almost beat the shit out of each other daily, having these kind of arguments or like the discussions about the film and sort of, you know, how much to play into this or play, you know, you shape performances and stuff, you know. So I'm used to these conversations, and you know, I mean, I enjoy it. So, you know, and like I said, I think the film turned out well, so I don't regret anything. But you know, there's definitely a lot of character stuff that it's not quite the way that most like Hollywood movies would do it, I guess, you know.
Right.
And it may have a deleterious effect on how people experience our movie. If they're expecting that kind of thing, they may not like the movie. Character, I don't know, just try to do something a little different, but still keep it in this context. It's not this just like, you know, like weirdo art film or something. I mean, we wanted to make it very accessible and commercial, but at the same time, you know, just try some different things. And, you know, that was one.
Yeah, I thought it was a really fucking good movie. So thank you again for making it.
Well, thanks for watching it. We really appreciate it. Actually, we really appreciate all the support. We worked hard on it, and we're a little movie, so any way we can get the word out it's good.
Yes. Well, Rich, thanks again for coming. It was an honor to have you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you can watch Ghost House on Netflix, and you can contact us by leaving us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. You can email us at pot@gncast.com, or you can leave a message on our website. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Podcast of Terror. You can subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any of your favorite podcatchers. All subscription links and options can be found at gncast.com/subscribe, and you can follow the entire network on Facebook under the Galactic Network. Rich, where can people find you, everything you're doing, everything you're going to be doing?
Well, you can follow, you want to check in on all the latest Ghost House news. We have a Ghost House Facebook page, obviously, and you can, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, you know, Rich Ragsdale on both of those. So, you know, look me up, hit me up.
Awesome.
If you like Ghost House, you know, let us know.
If you don't, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Ghost House yet, it is available through Netflix. Otherwise, you can also get it through Amazon Video. If you go through our link, if you go to amazon.podcastofterror.com, that helps out the show a little bit. But also, sounds like it might be a reason to go to iTunes if you have that as one of your options. because you might get some extra stuff there.
That's true.
There's 3 like kind of behind the scenes videos, that one with designing the ghost, one with the sequence that you saw with the ghost house, building the world, and then one about the music. So they're all very
yeah. Corey, where can people find you?
You can find me watching reruns of the Rerun Show.
So just wasting away.
Or else you can go look at the comics that I help write with my friend Levi Krause and all the other stuff that he has been publishing. Go to don'taskcomics.com. And if you're interested in my wife's artwork, as we were talking about earlier, you can go to arthag.com or look her up on Instagram, hag_attack, and see a lot of penises.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped at Matt the Lifeguard. Next week, we're going to be doing the Incantation with Jude Walko. That's another fun of wrestles. Eventually, we're going to run out of Russell's friends. Then I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what we're going to do at that point. We'll figure it out. But thank you very much for listening to another episode of the podcast here, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Stay scary, everybody.